Picture this: Chinese tourists standing outside an Apple store in Hong Kong, confused and frustrated because they didn't know about purchase limits. That moment sparked something that would become one of retail's most powerful platforms, Xiaohongshu, or as it's known internationally, Red Note. If you've never heard of it, you're not alone. But if you're trying to reach Chinese consumers, especially travelers with serious purchasing power, you're missing the conversation. Welcome to the IADS Retail Park, a podcast by the International Association of Department Stores, where we unpack the strategies that separate retail survivors from retail dinosaurs. Whether you're joining us for the first time or you're a regular listener, we're glad you're here. I'm Maya Senko, Head of Communications and Deployment at IADS. Today, I'm joined by Anchita Ranka, our Head of Analysis and Perspectives, who wrote this week's exclusive after Xiaohongshu presented at our General Assembly in Hong Kong last November. Anchita, I have to say, the origin story alone makes this platform different from anything most Western retailers are used to dealing with.
Thanks for having me, Maya. And you're right, I think that origin story tells you everything about how Xiaohongshu understands consumer needs. It didn't start as a social network trying to grab attention. It started as someone solving a real problem for travelers. That practical DNA is still at the core of how it operates today, which is why it's so effective for retail.
So we're not talking about another Instagram clone or Facebook wannabe. This is something built on utility first, community second. And now it's got 350 million monthly active users, most of them young, affluent, and actively searching for shopping advice. Let's dig into why that matters and what it means for international retailers. Why don't we start with what makes Xiaohongshu different from the platforms most international retailers are already familiar with? You mentioned in the exclusive that authenticity and user-generated content aren't just buzzwords here, they're actually the strategy. What does that look like in practice?
It's built into the platform's architecture. Everything is public, everything is shareable, and about 1/3 of users are actively creating content. That's a huge proportion when you think about it. Most platforms have maybe 5 to 10% of users creating content, with the rest just consuming. But on Xiaohongshu, everyday people, not just influencers or brand accounts, are constantly sharing their experiences. We're talking over 6 million comments generated, and 90% of all content comes from individual users, not brands.
That stat really stands out. So brands are essentially outnumbered 10 to 1 by real people sharing their honest opinions. I imagine that dynamic can be both an opportunity and a challenge depending on how you approach it.
It's both, and that's what makes it powerful. Xiaohongshu directs at least half of all platform traffic toward user-generated content, which means consumer voices drive visibility. When users love a product, their enthusiasm becomes organic promotion. When they don't, that feedback is equally visible. For brands, it's unfiltered market research happening in real time. You're getting authentic sentiment that you can't manufacture or control through paid campaigns.
I'm thinking about how different that is from Instagram or Facebook, where algorithms decide what you see based on engagement patterns. You mentioned in the exclusive that 70% of Xiaohongshu users actively search the platform. That behavior pattern seems more like Google than social media.
That's the key distinction. Users come with intent. They're not passively scrolling through their feed. They're asking specific questions and looking for answers. Think of someone planning a trip to Paris. They're not just browsing pretty pictures of the Eiffel Tower. They're searching best tax-free shopping Paris or Galeries Lafayette must-buy items. The search volume has surpassed Baidu, which is China's Google. That tells you how much trust users place in peer recommendations over traditional search engines.
So if I'm a retailer, I need to think about my presence on Xiaohongshu more like search engine optimization strategy than social media marketing. I need to show up when people are actively looking for answers related to what I offer.
That's the mindset shift that needs to happen. And the content that performs well isn't polished brand campaigns with professional photography. It's real people sharing their coffee rituals, their crafting projects, the specific tools they use. Xiaohongshu thrives on these everyday narratives. A department store could be featured in someone's story about finding the perfect gift, or their Sunday routine, or how they styled an outfit. It's about embedding your brand in the context of daily life, not interrupting it with ads.
Let's shift to who's actually using this platform, because the user demographics paint a really interesting picture for international retailers. You've got 350 million monthly active users. What should retailers know about them?
They're young and they're affluent. 85% are under 35, and half live in China's first and second tier cities, which means serious purchasing power. The platform grew significantly during China's COVID lockdowns because people turned to it for urgent, practical questions: hotel recommendations, quarantine procedures, that kind of thing. While it started female skewed and still is about 60 to 70% women, it's broadening across industries and interests.
And these users, when they're traveling outbound, they're using Xiaohongshu basically as their travel companion throughout the entire planning process. You outline this whole 60-day consumer journey in the exclusive. Can you break that down for us?
Of course, Maya. About 60 days before a trip, users start with broad searches: city guides, general inspiration, figuring out which destinations appeal to them. Between 40 and 60 days out, it shifts to logistics, visas, hotels, transportation, all the practical elements that need to be sorted. At 20 to 30 days, they're booking specific attractions, train tickets, maybe guided tours. Then, in those final 10 days, they're laser focused on daily planning and shopping. That last window is crucial for retailers because that's when users are actively looking for store recommendations, exclusive products, specific shopping districts.
So, timing matters quite a bit. If I'm running a department store in London or New York, I need to make sure my content is surfacing during that last 10-day window when travelers are finalizing their plans. But I'm guessing the earlier touch points matter too for building awareness and getting onto people's radar.
For sure, you want to be part of that entire journey. Early on, maybe you're showing up in broader lifestyle content. Someone's London aesthetic guide might feature your store's architecture or a cafe inside your location. Closer to the trip, you're providing practical information: opening hours, tax refund procedures, exclusive products only available at your location. The platform's analytics allow you to understand these patterns and time your content accordingly.
You mentioned in the exclusive that there's growing interest in city exclusives, limited edition products or experiences you can only get in specific places. That seems like a huge opportunity for physical retail locations trying to differentiate themselves.
It is, and it taps into the sense of discovery and urgency that travelers are looking for. Users don't just want to buy things they could get anywhere, they want items that make their trip special and memorable. A fragrance only available in Singapore, character merchandise exclusive to Tokyo, a limited edition collaboration at a Paris department store. These become must have items that drive searches and foot traffic. The platform shows us that must buy lists are trending heavily. People want curated guidance, not endless options to sort through themselves.
I want to touch on something you highlighted about visual culture because it connects to how retailers design their physical spaces. You mentioned trends like OOTD and summer feed check that are borrowed from global social media. How is that changing what retailers need to think about when they're designing stores?
Visual storytelling is everything on this platform. Users are looking for photogenic moments, places where they can take great selfies, backgrounds that look good in posts, and make them feel like they're part of something shareable. For department stores and shopping malls, this means mirrors, interesting architectural features, Instagram worthy corners. These aren't just nice to haves anymore, they're actual differentiators that influence whether someone visits your location or goes elsewhere.
So it's about creating experiences that naturally prompt content creation. If I visit a store and there's a beautiful space that's worth photographing, I'm essentially doing their marketing for them when I post about it to my network.
That's the power of it. And because your Hongshu users are so search driven, those posts become discoverable content for future visitors. Someone searches best photo spots in Paris shopping, and your store shows up because 20 people have already posted about it. It compounds over time and creates this virtuous cycle. The platform is tracking these patterns too. They're segmenting users by interests, whether someone travels for art exhibitions, concerts, family activities, or coffee culture. That level of granularity helps brands target the right consumer segments at the right time with the right messaging.
Let's get tactical for a moment on Cheetah. An international retailer is listening to this and thinking, okay, I need to be on Xiaohongshu. What's the actual path to building a presence there that makes sense?
First step is establishing an official brand account. That gives you access to content creation tools, influencer collaboration features, and community partnership options. But here's what's different from Western platforms. Xiaohongshu rejects the idea of one off, high budget campaigns for instant awareness. They advocate for what they call seeding. You cultivate a group of engaged users, nurture their interest, and expand reach as brand affinity deepens. The effective time horizon is 6 months to a year, which is very different from what most brands are used to.
That's a pretty significant mindset shift for brands used to quarterly campaign cycles and immediate ROI metrics. It sounds more like community building than traditional marketing blitzes.
It really is. And it's timed around China's major holidays: Chinese New Year in February, Labor Day in May, National Day in October. Those are when you see pronounced influxes of outbound travelers. So your campaign planning needs to align with those patterns and build momentum leading into them. Zhao Hongshu's approach is gradual and sustained. They gave the example of a campaign for Singapore's Changi Airport where they pre exposed users to iconic features, then created mini pages aggregating discussions and reviews. That way, when someone searches for the airport, high quality positive content dominates the results rather than random or potentially negative posts.
Okay, I see that it's about controlling your narrative by ensuring the right content is discoverable and surfaces first. And you mentioned they integrate with online travel agencies to close the loop.
That's right, Maya. Then in season maintenance is where you move from reactive dashboard monitoring, sales are down 15%, we need to discount, to proactive trend chasing and experimental inventory management. Data gives you the speed to respond in near real time, but human intuition determines which emerging trends are worth amplifying with inventory bets and which ones are just noise. End of season reset returns to science for margin management, clearance optimization, and inventory disposition, but it's informed by all the richer insights you captured during the active season.
This framework really clarifies where organizations should be investing in analytical automation versus where they need to protect space for human creativity and judgment. Let's talk about AI specifically because there's so much hype and anxiety swirling around it. Where does AI actually fit in this model?
The platform advocates for a funnel based approach, tracking awareness, engagement, and post campaign evolution rather than just immediate conversions. This is especially relevant for retailers outside China who are competing not just with other stores, but with cultural attractions for tourist attention and limited time. You're building a foundation of loyal consumers, Maya. So the metrics look less like immediate conversion and more like growing community engagement, positive sentiment in user generated content, and repeat mentions in travel planning posts. Those are your leading indicators.
You ended the exclusive with a really forward thinking point about AI and training data that I found fascinating. Can you unpack that connection for us?
Sure, we know that Reddit's data is one of the most cited sources on ChatGPT because it contains authentic human opinions and conversations at scale. Reddit even licenses its data to train AI models now. Xiaohongshu's user base is generating that same kind of high quality, high weight data, but with specifically Chinese cultural lens that's underrepresented in most Western AI training datasets. As marketing spend shifts from traditional search engine optimization to enhancing visibility in large language models, the content you have on platforms like Xiaohongshu could become part of AI training data in ways that shape future discovery.
So, when someone asks an AI chatbot for hyper-specific recommendations, like best luxury shopping for a first-time visitor to London, the AI might pull from Xiaohongshu discussions to inform its answer, especially for Chinese-speaking users.
Potentially, yes. And if your brand has a positive, well established presence in those discussions, you're embedded in the training data that shapes how AI understands and recommends retail experiences. That's future proofing your discoverability in a way most brands haven't even considered yet. It's not just about human searching anymore, it's about ensuring AI understands not just what your products are, but why they matter to the specific demographic and how they fit into their travel and shopping patterns.
That's a really compelling long term view that goes beyond next quarter's numbers. We're not just thinking about today's search algorithms, we're thinking about how our brand shows up in the next generation of search and discovery tools that millions of people will rely on.
And given how quickly AI is evolving, that future isn't as far off as people might think. The work you do today to build authentic community engagement and positive sentiment could pay dividends in ways we're just starting to understand. When generative AI chatbots become the primary way people plan travel and make purchase decisions, which some analysts think could happen within the next few years, having your brand embedded in that training data through authentic user conversations becomes incredibly valuable.
Anchita, this has been such a valuable conversation. I think what strikes me most is that Xiaohongshu isn't asking retailers to learn a new set of tricks. It's asking them to be genuinely useful to a community that's already making decisions about where to shop. The hard part is being patient enough to build that presence over months instead of expecting instant results from a big campaign launch.
That's it, Maya. Chinese consumers are already on Xiaohongshu planning their trips, asking questions, trusting peer recommendations over brand messaging. The question for international retailers isn't whether to participate, it's whether you want a voice in those conversations or just hope people stumble into your store by accident. And with so few international brands actively engaged right now, there's a real first mover advantage for those willing to invest in doing it right.
Which means authenticity over advertising, community building over campaign bursts, and understanding that a 6 month timeline isn't a bug, it's a feature of sustainable growth. For listeners who want to go deeper on this, the full exclusive Anchita wrote is available on our Substack at IADS Exclusive Insights. We'll link to it in the episode description.
And if anyone listening is already experimenting with Xiaohongshu, I'd genuinely love to hear about it. We're all figuring this out together, and as more retailers engage with the platform, we can develop better collective practices and learn from each other's successes and challenges.
I love that shout out for collaboration. Thanks so much for walking us through this, Anchita. Always great unpacking these trends with you. And to everyone listening, if this episode gave you a new perspective on reaching Chinese consumers, hit subscribe so you don't miss future episodes where we explore the strategies reshaping retail. Leave us a review. If you found this valuable, or better yet, share it with someone in your organization. For more insights, check us out on Substack and follow the International Association of Department Stores on LinkedIn for updates and success stories. Until next time, remember, retail evolution isn't optional, and the platforms shaping consumer decisions are changing faster than most boardrooms realize. Don't let your strategy be the last to adapt. This is Maya for the IADS Retail Park, and remember, stay curious to stay ahead. Please be advised that this podcast features AI cloned voices created with human oversight.